Alright, lads. I have this video that I want to make right now, and it's about the topic on the screen. And it's a little bit, not a little bit, it's a really worrisome one for me. There's a reason this worries me, and it freaks me out when I see this. Now, let me put this like this, right? Okay, I've got a video plan, which I can't make right now because it requires a lot of editing, and I'm still sick, and my brain is killing me. And I wasn't even planning on recording today until I saw this, and it freaked me out. Because I remember from yesterday, this was kind of a thing that popped up in conversation, but I didn't actually, I didn't elaborate on it much. But now that I look at it more, and now that I've read this article, it freaks me out. So the article itself is written by Ryan Craddock, who writes on NintendoLife.com, and the title, as you can see, is "The Pokemon Let's Go series could progress to Johto if players enjoy Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee." Now, let me explain a few things, right? I feel like a lot of people yesterday, and I'm sorry for ranting, it wasn't really meant to be a rant. I didn't expect it to be a rant. I thought it was going to be just a fun video, but when I saw what Masuda was saying, it really worried me, because it feels like he's kind of in the same position as a lot of people in other game studios, where they don't seem to take anything into regard of what the fans are saying, right? What we really want is for Pokemon to progress and get better, not take a step backwards. And I'm going to do this in my video when I do a comparison of the positives and the negatives, what's good about Let's Go, but what's bad, the lack of certain features, the addition of other features that aren't, as interesting, etc. I'm kind of do a little bit of a comparison video of the positives, negatives at a later time, probably this weekend if I get better. Again, I'm still sick, so it's kind of hard, but let's just read what this all says. So again, the title is Pokemon Let's Go series could progress to Johto if players enjoy Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Two series running side by side. I do not want that. And I'm going to explain why I don't want that and my reasoning behind it. And it will explain itself once we get to it. Okay, so here we go. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee are just over a month away, with fans on the brink of being transported back to the nostalgic region of Kanto once again. Now, I'm going to be frankly honest, I am just tired of Kanto, dude. I don't want to, after we're done with this Kanto, set of games, I don't want to see Kanto mentioned in the next Pokemon games whatsoever. I just don't want to see Kanto in my eyes, whatsoever. I just want to move on to the next thing. All I'm excited about right now is Gen 8 and Gen 4 remakes. That's all I care about. As soon as we get Let's Go, we play through it, and we're done with it after a month or two of playing the games, I just want to move past this and get to the next, generation, because that's where I'm excited about going. Maybe also revisiting Sinnoh would be fun, in 3D. So, the latter first introduced in Pokemon Red and Blue and Pokemon Yellow, from which these games, new games, are heavily inspired. Well, inspired is, that's what they define it as, but isn't Yellow technically a reimagining of Yellow? Isn't Let's Go a reimagining of Yellow, technically speaking? I mean, it's just a remake in reality. It's just a remake with added quote-unquote features and removal of certain features from recent generations, but then again, those recent generations weren't the same thing as in Yellow, so technically speaking, these are just remakes of Yellow. What do you think about it, right? These are just remakes of Yellow, because them saying reimagining actually hurts them even more, because if they just said that these are remakes instead, then it would kind of make sense, because if you look at specifically back at Yellow, it didn't have many features. It lacked a lot of features. So technically speaking, this game has more features than Yellow in that sense. But due to the fact that we are now used to, example here, Pokemon X and Y, right? X and Y had specific features, and those features and new features as well transferred over to the remakes in the same generation as Gen 6, which were Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which were remakes of Gen 3, right? Now, did Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire have many features that Gen 3 did not have? Yes, 100%. And that's the thing, right? It was meant to be kind of taking aspects of the generation that it's within, and then, kind of doing that. Whereas Let's Go kind of ends up in this weird position where people, it's essentially a Gen 7 game, but it doesn't take any features from Gen 7 whatsoever. But then it doesn't really connect to Gen 8 whatsoever either. It's kind of in its own little area, which is a really gray area. I don't really know what to define it as at this point. But either way, let's go on here. So, as it turns out, a sequel which would see the series move on to the franchise's second generation in years to come is definitely a possibility, which I do not. Just leave Kanto, please, man. Papa Bless, please leave Kanto alone. Of course, we've seen multiple remakes in the past, with Fire Red and Leaf Green reimagining the first set of games originally, and Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And do you know why Heart Gold, Soul Silver were so great? Because they actually were good remakes. You know what I mean? If you just go back to Johto now, just to make Let's Go Johto, just for a quick, you know, dollar bills, what's the point? Like, you're just making a shittier remake. You know what I mean? At least Yellow never had a remake, so it makes sense to have Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. But having Let's Go Johto, or like, you know, Let's Go Meryl and some whatever other Pokemon, like, you know, whatever other Pokemon from like Gen 2, like, you know, having that makes no sense to me, because there's already been a recent remake of specific, you know, not recent really, it's been a while now, but you know, it's been almost a decade, well over a decade now. But I mean, we already kind of had that. We've already had, you know, remakes of those games. Yellow never had a remake. So in reality, I'm okay if this was just a remake of Yellow. In that way, I'd be like, hey, Yellow was a side game. It got a remake. I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? I'm fine with it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's okay. If you want to do Let's Go Johto, the only way I'd see it being okay... Oh man, and this, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, if you were to do like a Let's Go Crystal or something, right? Or like, you know, base it off of what Crystal is, and kind of be a reimagine of Crystal rather than, the other games. But then again, I still don't want to see a Let's Go Johto game. I just don't want to see any more Let's Go games in general. But let's continue with the article. I'm sorry for stopping so much. I apologize. Of course, we've been seeing multiple remakes in the past. Pokemon with Fire Red, Leaf Green, reimagining the first set of games originally, and Heart Gold, Soul Silver taking on the next generation not too long after. With the new Let's Go games technically acting as a second remake for those original games. Would it really be that much of a stretch to make more reimaginings for the rest of the series too? It appears that Junichi Masuda, Game Freak's executive director, would be open to the idea the Let's Go games the Let's Go games moving on to the second generation in the first entry, if the first entry is well received. This intriguing little nugget of information actually comes from a recent interview with Eurogamer, where he was originally asked why Pokemon which are related to Kantomon through evolution, such as Jigglypuff's baby Igglybuff, won't be appearing in the upcoming games. And Masuda, of course, we've already read this, but let's read it again here for context. So, Masuda said, kind of off of the basis of it, you know, he uses a you know a lot, is that it in the first generation, there aren't any Pokemon eggs. So, you know, when we thought about how would these Pokemon be hatched in the first place, it kind of didn't make any sense. But also, you know, we wanted to spend more time and put more effort into making the Kanto Pokemon, the original 151, as well made as possible, and expressing them as well as we could. When pressed for clarification on whether this indicates a potential sequel in Johto, Masuda simply said, so you know, maybe, if everyone enjoys playing these games, laughs. Would you like to see the Let's Go series move to a more traditional games going forward? Do you think there's room for both series types to flourish side by side? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. So guys, I'm telling you this, where's my wallet, okay? Please, everybody, buy Gen 8 next year. Buy Gen 8. Let's make sure that if this motherfucking game sells 10 million copies, that Gen 8 sells 20 million, okay? We gotta do it. Please, Papa blessing you on your ass. You gotta do it. Buy Gen 8. We gotta make sure that this mofo knows that we don't want Let's Go games in the future. I'd rather want to just wait for like 2-3 years for a proper remake or some shit, rather than seeing a simple Let's Go shitty ripoff goddamn bada beep beam boom. I'm just joking. Either way, my point is, would a Let's Go game, like, here's the way I can see this working, right? And I'm probably gonna read some of the comments here in the Nintendo Live post here, but the way I can see this working is if, like, you know, let's take it like this, right? So, new gen, remake, Let's Go. 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 New gen, let's go. You know what I mean? If they can do that, it would be prime. It would be perfect, right? That would be great. Because then at that point, you're like, okay, so we have, you know, we have 1 year. Let's say, okay, let's just put it up like this, right? Let's say we had a bunch of years. Let me just get a little bit of a word pad up for myself here. So let's say hypothetically we had, like, you guys can't see it at the screen at the moment, but let's say we had, you know, 2018 is Let's Go, right? Then 2019 is, I don't know, what would 2019 be? Gen 8, right? Gen 8. Then 2020 would be Remake. Then 2021 would be Let's Go. Then 2022 would be new gen, right? Because that'll give it exactly like what 3 years after the Gen 8. So you've got new Gen 9 in 2022. Then 2023 remake of Gen 5. Then 2024, let's go. Okay, there you go. That's where I would be fine with it. This would be great if they did it in this order, right? Let's go Gen 8. Let's go new Gen remake. Let's go new Gen remake. Let's go new Gen remake. But here's the thing though. Please, just do this one thing with the Let's Go games. Don't let them affect. This is my problem, right? I don't want the Let's Go games to influence the main line core RPG games. That's what I don't want. Man, my brain is killing me. That's just what I don't want, guys. As long as they don't affect each other, I'm fine with it. And as long as this doesn't ruin any potential future remake, then I'm okay with it. In all fairness, I'm okay with it. And I don't think we'll ever, like, catch up with the remakes. Like, you know, I don't think we'll ever, like, you know, be at the point where, like, oh, the remakes have caught up to the current generation, right? You know, I mean, oh, you know, let's say we did, you know, Generation 11, and, you know, now we're already remaking Generation 11 when Generation 12's coming out. That's never going to happen, right? It's impossible with the kind of pacing they have, unless they, like, really just don't release, like, you know, if they release maybe several remakes in a row, that's the only way, but they would never do that. Remakes are always kind of like secondhand as to, like, new generations. But as long as we just don't, like keep, like, using this nostalgia thing as the only way for them to make money, that, I mean, dude, again, like I said, if we do it in this order, and the Let's Go games don't take away from the remakes and the main gen games, then I think I'd be fine with it, because I think they'll be okay. But the problem with the Let's Go games is they're just kind of expensive for less stuff in them. And I think that's what I'm going to bring up in my video when I compare the positives and negatives. I just feel like there just isn't, the Let's Go games just look pretty bare bones. So even if we had like a year where we get Let's Go games, you know, let's say like we do this whole like, this organization, right? Like Let's Go New Gen Remake, Let's Go New Gen Remake. Then every year where there's Let's Go games, it's going to be almost like there's no game that year. Because that's what it currently feels like to a lot of people. It's like, are we even getting a game this year? Because it feels like, you know, it's got so little hype behind it. Because most people are just kind of like, yeah, we already know what we're getting. We already know what this generation has to bring. The only reason I'm still excited a little bit about Let's Go is the potential that Meltan brings to the table, because Meltan is interesting to me. But even now that I think about it, it's related to Pokemon Go, so it kind of just like, it loses its flair. It really does. It loses a lot of its flair. And now that, like, you know, Pokemon Go is at Gen 4 right now. And by next year, it's going to be at Gen 6, most likely, you know what I mean, because I think, or maybe not, you know, maybe not Gen 6, but yeah, no, it will probably be by Gen 6, so, you know, Gen 4 out now, sometime maybe in July, maybe next year, or June, July, May, something like that, probably like Gen 5, and then late that year, maybe, if we're lucky, late that year, or early 2020, we'll have Gen 6, you know what I mean, so in not too long of a time, there will be just like, what, 2 generations behind the current generation of games, and then by the time we get the next generation of games, they will have caught up to them. So at that point, it would make it would kind of make like Pokemon Go obsolete, right? It will just lose its relevancy after a while, because in all fairness, right, guys, like Pokemon Go is relevant right now. It's still relevant because there are people still playing it, but like once it reaches that pinnacle, which is like, okay, we've caught up to all the generations, then it's in the same position as like the rest of the communities are. Because you know what, the reason for us as YouTubers why we are struggling sometimes with like Pokemon stuff is because there just isn't enough to talk about. Because once the new generation comes out, that's when we are excited. There's new things to talk about, there's new things to explore, new game to play, tons of stuff, right? But the moment that generation ends, we're waiting for the next remake, we're waiting for the next game. With like Pokemon Go, they don't even have all the other generations. So for them, it's exciting when a generation that we already have is coming to them. And they still have loads of them to go, right? They're at Gen 4 right now. Gen 4 was just released. So you got Gen 4 and still another 3 generations until they catch up to our current generation, which is Gen 7. And then, of course, next year, but at the time next year rolls around, there's going to be 4 generations for them to catch up to. So they still have something to, you know, be excited for. But imagine it then when, you know, when they don't have anything to be excited for new stuff to come. Because that's where we are right now. We are not waiting for anything other than Gen 8, you know what I mean? We're just waiting for that. We're waiting for it to come. And they always have something consistently new every single year. We don't always have that. We have off years, you know what I mean? You know, with main series games, you always have like years where there's nothing, or several years of waiting, right? You know, for us to get a new generation, we sometimes have to wait 3 years. You know, it depends on how long it takes them to make the game. It can take a really long time. If you take like, you know, this game that's coming out like next year. It's gonna be 3 years since the Generation 7 games came out. By the time these games come out, because what's gonna be like? So 2016 was Sun and Moon. So 2017, 2018, 2019, right? 3 years, literally 3 years. Between the generations there. So I mean, it's just gonna reach this point where it's kind of like it's going to become obsolete to play Pokemon Go because you're going to be in the same position as the rest of us and having to wait. And doesn't that kind of then at that point make the Let's Go games a little bit obsolete as well? If the game's already, like, what makes like Pokemon Go right now kind of like weird to me with like the matching with Let's Go is that like, okay, cool, but I can catch Pokemon all the way to like Gen 4, but I can't send all of those over to Let's Go. Okay, that's a bit odd. But yeah, I don't know. Either way, let's just read a few quick comments, and then we'll end off this video. I'm sorry for making this so long. I have a lot of thoughts about this. I feel like this could work, but it needs to be done right. So, that would be great. A sequel to the Let's Go series. Well, imagine Generation 2 and etc. on the Let's Go engine. There's nothing. The Let's Go engine is the same shit they've used for like their other stuff. It's the same thing. There's no difference between the engine they used for, like 3DS and then the Let's Go, the engine used for Let's Go. It's the same shit in reality. Either way, so somebody complains a little bit. Oh god, they're just doing what Marvel's doing with movies. Remake. Sorry, I mean reimagining. Why not create, I don't know, a new game? I agree. This is where I also have an issue is like, I mean, see, the reason why I brought up this idea of like, Let's Go remake... No, so Let's Go New Gen Remake, is because that's the only way I can see this working. But at that point, you're recycling so much content. You're just giving us the same shit all over again. The reason we want to go back to Sinnoh is because we haven't seen Sinnoh in such a long time. We want to see it in 3D. But once you've done, once we reach a point where, we reach a point at one point where, like, you don't want no more remakes. You want something new, which is what we want right now. I want something new. That's why I'm excited for Gen 8 and not excited for Let's Go. I mean, for Let's Go, I'm just kind of like, I want to see what it is. I want to play it first. But yeah, either way, so... let's see. Yeah, they were on the... alongside a keyword here, so long as it's alongside the real games, I'd be fine with it. Frankly, I still think it's absolutely absurd. This notion that the core games are too big or too complex for new players. I beat Red and Blue when I was 7 years old. They haven't added a single mandatory new feature since. Yeah, there is a lot of optional content that can be overwhelming to learn, but you don't need to do any of that to play and enjoy the single player. Precisely, right? Like, the reason why we enjoy these other things, Wi-Fi battles, shiny hunting, doing the Masuda method if you want to, or whatever, for shiny hunting, etc. The reason why we like that sort of stuff is because, it's there. It's something we can do besides just the basic stuff. When I was a kid, do you think I was looking around at looking at my IVs, EVs and shit? No. But you know what I did when I learned more about it, once I kind of grew up? I did look into it. I tried to learn it. My friends told me hey dude, let's do some Wi-Fi battles and whatnot. Or hey man, I want to do some shiny hunting. I was like, okay, cool man, I want to do some shiny hunting as well. Let's do it together, right? It's about the principle of these things being there because they're good features that expand the gameplay. By removing them, you're removing those options fully, and you're leaving us with a blank kind of boring, base level, basic experience. That it's not going to be fun to play after yeah, sure, an hour of gameplay. And maybe that's your point. Maybe you just don't want people to even play the games, because the way he's putting it, the way Masuda puts it is that we don't want people to sit for a long time playing our games. We just want them to sit there because this is what they think. They say, we know that people don't have a lot of time nowadays. That's what you think. If anything, I think people have more time today than they've ever had before. That's just me. I feel like in the past, right, if you were a kid, you gotta go with your dad out on the freaking, into the freaking, onto the farm and do some farm work. Nowadays, I feel like kids actually have more time. I mean, I know that growing up, I played Pokemon all the time. As soon as I came home, I played games, did my homeworks, played Pokemon, had a good time. Sometimes took my Game Boy with me to school, played it in the, out on the yard with some friends and stuff, had a good time. Again, and what I'm trying to get across here is that, why remove these features? Why have this idea that, it's also hard for people? It's not that hard. If we could understand it as kids, then I think kids today can understand it as well. Don't play into this idea now that children are, have to be, catered to 100%, and you need to dumb down everything for children to understand it nowadays. Why do that? Why not just make a good game? Don't have these ideas of people don't have enough time to play the games. Don't think about that. Think about how to make a good game. That's what you should have in mind first and foremost. How can I make this a good game? That's got to be your number one priority. And it doesn't seem like that is Masuda's number one priority. His priority seems to be, how can I make a game that can be consumed in like as little as possible, consumed as little as possible, and have as little intricacy to it as possible, so that any dum-dum, can understand it. Which is just like, I don't know, man. But either way, so I really hope that if they're gonna go with this, that they go with it in a right path. If they're really, like, if there is no choice for me, for example, if I have no choice in deciding, how they're gonna do, these games, like, let's go, if they're gonna, if I had no choice, right, I mean, like, they're being a Let's Go Johto, then if they're gonna do Let's Go Johto, please do it in the way I explained it. Let's go New Gen Remake. Let's Go New Gen Remake. Do it in that way, and please, if you're gonna do a Let's Go Johto game, please make it as good as Heart Gold Soul Silver, because if you don't make that, I'm gonna literally lampoon the shit out of you, because just know, okay, Johto Heart Gold Soul Silver was amazing. If you can't reach that level, then you don't deserve anybody's money, and you don't deserve any praise. Because if you can't make a better game than the one that you guys made in, like, what, 2007 or some shit, if you can't make anything better than that, then I just don't, I just can't support that ideology of yours of making these games the way you are doing right now. Please, just make it good. That's all I'm asking. Just make it a good game, man. Just make a good game. Make that your number one priority. Make a good game. And then all that other shit can come afterwards. Just make a good game. That's all I'm asking for. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching. I don't know, Let's Go has a good aspect of it, but it has a lot of bad aspects to it as well. And I think just Masuda's philosophy just isn't good. I just don't agree with his philosophy. And that's where I think the biggest problem is. Like, his philosophy is just not aligning with the way I think that the Pokemon franchise has evolved, right? But yeah, I don't know. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Waffle Rowlet. Have a great day, and sorry for this video being so long. This wasn't even, like, I didn't think it was going to be this long. I thought I was going to go through this real fast, but once I go on a tangent, I just can't stop. I apologize. Either way, thank you so much for watching. My name is Waffle Rowlet. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.